for being here, and we'll start with a roll call.
Today is January 24th, 2024. The time is 4:37 p.m. and those in attendance are Carla Gurgiolo,
Present.
Joanne Harris,
Present.
Josie Martinez,
Present.
Andrea Sanchez Muniz is absent. Norma Montalvo is absent. Fernanda Cardenas,
Here.
Paul Stahl is absent. Marcy Ince,
Here.
Beth Graham,
Here.
Judy Cruz is absent. Jaspreet Kaur.
Present.
Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. We'll start our meeting with a silent meditation, and I invite you all to take a moment and just center ourselves on why we are here meeting today. Okay, thank you. We'll start first with the approval of minutes. The minutes are in your packet, and for those trustees that are online, the minutes should also have been in the packet that was emailed to you. And I'll entertain a motion for the approval of minutes.
Are we doing them 1 month at a time? There's 2 sets of minutes.
Yes, we'll do 2 motions. Thank you, Beth, for that question.
I move approval of the minutes of the December 6, 2023 meeting as submitted.
Thank you. We have
And I second.
okay, thank you. We have a motion made by Beth and a second by Joanne. Any discussion or comments about the minutes? Okay, Nicholas, could you take us through a roll call vote? Thank you.
Carla Gurgiolo,
Yes.
Joanne Harris,
Yes.
Josie Martinez,
Aye.
Andrea Sanchez Muniz is absent. Norma Montalvo is absent. Fernanda Cardenas,
Yes.
Paul Stahl is absent. Marcy Ince,
Present? You're here? Yes? No, I read this part. Yes, whatever.
Beth Graham,
Aye.
Judy Cruz is absent. Jaspreet Kaur.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next, I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the January 9th minutes.
So
And-
moved.
Thank you, Beth.
I second Joanne Harris.
Thank you, Joanne. Nicholas, back to you.
Carla Gurgiolo,
Aye.
Joanne Harris,
Yes.
Josie Martinez,
Yes.
Andrea Sanchez Muniz is absent. Norma Montalvo is absent. Fernanda Cardenas,
Yes.
Paul Stahl is absent. Marcy Ince,
Would you answer when you weren't there? Do I still say yes, even though I wasn't?
Say aye.
Aye?
Yeah.
Okay.
yes. Beth Graham,
Aye.
Judy Cruz is absent. Jaspreet Kaur.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Those January 9th minutes do include the details of our strategic work session, so I invite all of you to hold on to your paper copy or keep track of that email, as throughout the year that will be important work that will continue to build on. And an administrative reminder for trustees, when you are voting, for those of you who are online, please ensure that your camera is on so that we can record your vote properly. Next, we're going to move to public comments. And we have public comments that were both submitted online as well as a list of a few folks that signed up to speak here. So as a courtesy for those who have traveled here, we're going to start with the comments that for citizens that have signed up in person. And then Nicholas, if you would assist with reading the online submitted comments after the in-person's complete.
And we do have Spanish language interpreters who can make an announcement in Spanish if anybody would need that assistance.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Buenas tardes a todos. Buenas tardes a todos. Mi nombre es Lina Pérez. Soy una de las intérpretes y solamente les quiero avisar sobre los servicios de interpretación en español. Gracias.
Gracias. Okay, first we have Liz Alves.
It's good to see some of people I've known for quite a few years. I became involved with the Schaefer Branch Library when Gloria Malone brought the idea to several of us. The idea became reality and the Schaefer Branch Library was opened in March 2017. Early on, the problems that area growth might present became apparent with the HEB warehouse, along with the Amazon warehouse, and the housing necessary for these young families to move into the area. Those issues now realized by ECISD, which is planning to open 2 new schools by 2025 and to increase enrollment 30% by 2025 and to double to 20,000 students by 2032. In 2017, our first Halloween event grew by about 500 people attending, and many had to park along Highway 87, which, as you can imagine, is not safe. It was obvious that our parking lot was too small for our future, and I began to set a motion on a new parking lot. The problem was the land we needed to enlarge. I convinced the Schaefer family to donate the land between the library and the housing division behind it. That land now belongs to the city of San Antonio. Now, to tackle the next step, the funding for the lot, which I have been working on for more than 2 years, I have printed a map on the existing library with the rough outline for a new parking lot drawn in so you can see the location. Do not think that I am through dreaming. The next step I envision is turning the new lot into a playground with basketball goals and who knows what else. For safety, we would put a gate to close off the new lot when it is not needed for programs and events. I would also like to expand the walking trail and add exercise stations.
Ms.
So
Alves.
this community needs your help to take the next step towards serving the needs of this rapidly growing area.
Thank you, Ms. Alves. That was your time permitted for citizens to be heard, but thank you very much for bringing your feedback to us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next, we have Christian Fernandez. Fernandez, thank you.
Yes, I'm here today because I'm a concerned citizen. I'm here to talk about the armed police in the Central Library. I am concerned because with the passing of Senate Bill 4, police officers will have grounds to ask people whether or not they've entered Texas from another country legally. This authorizes law enforcement that's untrained to engage in immigration enforcement. This concerns me because as a son of immigrants, my family used the library as a resource to put them on the path to citizenship. So by having armed police with Senate Bill 4 in place, you are deterring immigrants, and obviously San Antonio has a large immigrant community, and you're keeping the immigrant community out of the central library. Personally, I mean, and I'm sure a lot of us agree, we see the library as a place for people to learn and grow, and should be a place where all are welcome. By having police in the library, that deters that. Not only the immigrant community, but the homeless community and other people of color. So I just ask that y'all look for alternatives such as using that money to train staff in de-escalation or hiring social workers or anything else. I just really think that the library should be a safe place for all, and having armed police in the library doesn't do that. Thank you.
Thank you. And just confirm that was all the citizens I heard. Yes. Nicholas, would you share with us the online comments?
Public comment number 1 from Shelly Fernandez. Dear members of the Library Board of Trustees, my name is Shelly and I am a social worker. I'm reaching out to let you know about my deep concerns regarding the current pilot program with armed SAPD officers patrolling the Central Library, and to advocate for a more effective community-oriented approach, employing social workers in our libraries. While the intention of enhancing safety is commendable, the presence of armed police officers is not the most conducive to the safe, welcoming environment of our library aims to provide. The Central Library, a vital resource for thousands of San Antonio residents, should be a place of peace, learning, and community, not a place where armed law enforcement creates unease or intimidation for many community members. Considering that the library may allocate $70,000 annually to SAPD, a department already receiving $572.3 million of the city's budget, it is imperative to question if these funds could be better utilized in ways that prioritize the specific needs of our community. Social workers in libraries, a growing practice since 2012, have proven to be an effective alternative. Social workers in over 20 states have positively transformed library environments. They directly assist patrons with various issues, including mental health, homelessness, and family violence, and provide library staff with valuable support and professional development. This approach addresses diverse needs and fosters an atmosphere of care and safety. In light of these considerations, I strongly urge the board to reconsider the current security measures and adopt a strategy that ensures actual safety. Employing social workers instead of police officers promises a more inclusive, supportive, and genuinely safe environment for everyone entering our library. Thank you for your attention to this matter and for considering this proposal for a more community-focused library experience. Sincerely, Shelly Fernandez. Comment number 2 from Ariana Webb. Hello, my comment is regarding police officers being placed in and around public libraries. For the safety of our community members, I do not support more officers patrolling public libraries. For Black and brown people like myself, we are not always safe when more police are brought into patrol areas. Oftentimes, we are the victims of racist police tactics and violence against ourselves, our families, and loved ones. If public safety is a concern at libraries, then financial resources would be better placed in social workers and counselors, de-escalation measures, and non-emergency personnel equipped to deal with mental health needs. As a San Antonio community member, I urge the board to consider funding organizations and measures that actually protect our communities, unlike the police, which intentionally or not often traumatize and endanger community members, especially Black and brown San Antonians. Thank you for your time. Comment number 3 from Deanna Lizette Rodriguez. No cops at Central Library. As a Latina in the community, more cops in the facilities make me feel unsafe. Cops have been known to discriminate, disrespect, and abuse people of color in this country. They do not create any form of security for brown, black, and unhoused folks. And what they really are, therefore, is protecting the privileged individuals who do not want to engage with all forms of humanity. The Central Library is a community sanctuary for all. Cops on the facilities would disrupt this. Comment number 4 from Damian Dennis. On SAPD in our Central Library. SAPD has nearly 60% of the entire city budget to play with. Why is our public library giving them more out of their own budget? In what world that makes sense? For anyone with a rudimentary understanding of math and business, this is clearly the business decision of an amateur. So here's what I propose. Show us your math. You're making these decisions based on actual evidence that they will work, correct? Prove it. Use actual data that holds up under scrutiny to show us your work. Even further, you can use historical data from similar organizations here in SAPX if that's not data you collect. But we will need to see your work in detail. After that, data analysts from the community will evaluate if it rings true. This should be simple enough to produce if you made this decision like professionals would, using hard evidence. Some key points we will need your data to support. 1, perception of safety increases across a wide range of demographics with the introduction of on-site police or an increased police presence. 2, rates of bodily harm, reports of harassment and profiling, and wrongful detainments decrease with the introduction of on-site police or an increased police presence. 3, visits to the library and visitor time spent on location increase with the introduction of on-site police or an increased police presence. 4, library programs curated for families and youth have support, funding, or frequency either increased or maintained for the full duration of on-site police being either introduced or increased on location. You may use any other data points to make your argument. Until then, the cycle of a short-term decision San Antonio is caught up in, like putting on-site SAPD in our public libraries indefinitely, will not stand. Comment 5 from Paula Alejandro Diab. No police in the libraries. Security guards are good enough as an authority form. Comment 6 from Mandy Segovia. Please keep police out of libraries. They do not make a space safer. Libraries should be a safe and welcoming space for everyone, and there are so many alternatives to policing that have better outcomes. Comment number 7 from Michael Hernandez. Much to my dismay, I recently learned that SAPL has partnered with SAPD under the guise of public safety. Heavily armed patrols roam about in one of a dwindling number of public resources available to our communities. This is particularly concerning because although not exclusively, many marginalized and disadvantaged people frequent the library for reasons that extend well beyond books. They are protected from the elements with access to computers, internet, printing, and myriad other ways to improve their quality of life that would otherwise be inaccessible. I'm well versed in this because just over 3 years ago, the only difference between me and an unhoused person was my mother's support and sacrifice that provided a roof over my head, a futon to sleep on, and a cell phone for potential employers. The library is an invaluable resource, yet if I had walked into the library back then and been under the intimidating watch of a uniform that has repeatedly abused, brutalized, and outright murdered countless vulnerable community members, I would have turned around and walked right back out. If I had walked into a library back then to the impressive presence of a uniform worn by those who are rarely, if ever, held accountable for their actions, I would not be the person writing this message today who just completed their associates last fall at the Alamo Colleges and is now at Texas A&M working on a dual bachelor's degree. I would have turned around and walked right back out. If I had walked into a library back then and seen a uniform that is the physical manifestation of aggression and abuse of power waiting to happen in a place where I previously felt safe, I would not be the person writing this message that has reintegrated as a productive member of society. A person who volunteers their free time and gives back to their community. I would have turned around and walked right back out. I would not be here to tell you SAPD does not belong in the library. Comment number 8 from Cali Castellanos. Dear members of the Library Board of Trustees, my name is Cali Castellanos and I've lived in San Antonio for my entire life, 24 years, and recently graduated with a Master of Social Work from UTSA. I am deeply invested in the well-being of our community. I am making comment today regarding the pilot project that began in November 2023 to employ armed SAPD officers to address assaults by patrons at the Central Library. While it is imperative to ensure the safety of all patrons and staff of the library, I have concerns about the pilot project and believe there is a better option to meet the needs of patrons and prevent violence: employing social workers in libraries. First, employing police in libraries will not address the underlying cause of patron violence. This may instead create feelings of intimidation and fear that may lead to further incidents of violence. Additionally, libraries should not be a place where community members experiencing mental health and other crises may be met with force. Instead, libraries should consider employing social workers. Social workers are present in libraries in over 20 states throughout the country because they are trained in addressing the diverse needs of patrons, including homelessness, mental health, and family violence. Additionally, they can safely intervene with patrons experiencing mental health and other crises with care and de-escalation. I therefore urge the board to consider this alternative plan to invest in the holistic well-being of patrons. Thank you for your consideration on this matter. Sincerely, Kale Castellanos. Comment number 9 from Enrique Iglesias. I'm a longtime volunteer with the nearby Corazon Ministries, particularly at the Corazon Clinic and Day Center. I want to share my concerns about SAPD officers patrolling the Central Library because in years of conversing and learning about the lives of our unhoused and homeless residents, I have heard countless stories of police mistreating or abusing them. People will come in for wrist pain because the police push them to the ground. People will talk about cops destroying their items or sweeping them from their shelter. A lot of these great folks I've met have histories of assault, trauma, mental health crises, PTSD, but are punished, over-criminalized, and marginalized for their struggles, often at the hands of the police in the city. The Central Library is an essential place for people with safety, books, printing, workshops, computers, Wi-Fi, and more, and it continues to be so important for unhoused and working-class residents. Let's fund and make genuine efforts towards community alternatives rather than violent institutions like the police, who show time and time again that they serve to enforce social and economic inequality and do not prevent crime. The San Antonio Public Library can consider the $70,000 for better alternatives focused on de-escalation, trauma-informed harm reduction staff, counselors, social workers, and other interventions.
That's all the comments? Okay. Thank you for sharing those. And thank you for those of you who signed up to speak. We appreciate your feedback.
I apologize. I also signed up to speak online, but I couldn't find the register form online, and I didn't realize there was.
No, that's fine. No problem.
Okay.
You can go ahead.
Okay.
And then after you speak, if you wouldn't mind just signing up so we have your name. Thank you.
My name is Ruby Jimenez. I'm a resident of San Antonio and also a member of various coalitions and organizations that are deeply concerned with adding police to the library. I feel like I know it needlessly escalates situations. We know for a fact that police are not held accountable when they mishandle an incident or escalate to a violent situation. They get rehired easily, and it doesn't make our community safer to add police to these spaces. To a great point that Christian made, SB 4 is going to go into effect in March 7th. This allows Texas officers to detain, deport undocumented immigrants, open the door to mass racial profiling, and I feel like that's a letdown to the community. Instead of looking to other avenues like de-escalation training that was previously mentioned, or using those $70,000 to employ a social worker, there's so many other options that we could take instead, and time is of the essence to protect our most vulnerable communities. So I implore you to end this program and use those funds towards better resources available. Thank you.
Thank you. The sheet's outside. Is there anyone else who had anything to share? Okay. Next, we will go to our next agenda item, which is a report from the library chair. And as a reminder, I'd like to remind everyone that today's meeting is being live streamed via YouTube. And then also our Board members who are joining us virtually, please turn your camera on when we are taking a vote. I joined Assistant City Manager David McCary, who's joined us here in person. Thank you for being here, Mr. McCary, and along with our Director Romero Salazar to meet with the Bexar County representatives regarding the interlocal agreement with Bexar County Services for library services on January 19th, and we'll be providing an additional update later in today's meeting. And the proposed 2024 Library Board Work Plan is in your packets for review. There will be an action item in the next meeting, our February 2024 meeting, to discuss the work plan and to approve the plan for the year. So please take time to review the draft, provide me or Jessica with any feedback. And for your reference, last year's work plan is also included in the packet. Next, we'll move to trustee reports, and I'm going to start on my left-hand side with Beth Graham.
I kind of feel like the WXYZ in an alphabetical order sometimes, so we usually start over there. I, over the past month, attended the Holocaust Learn and Remember News Conference at the Central Library, the Brook Hollow 40th Anniversary Celebration, and last night the follow-up open house at Carver Branch Library to show the community the work that has been done and kind of what the future plans are. And I would just like to congratulate and compliment the staff on the work they did on all of those events. They were, as usual, beautifully carried out, and I think the participants and attendees really found them enjoyable and helpful.
Great. Thank you, Beth. Marcy?
Okay, so I kind of wrote it down this time so I can remember better, because I missed some of the things last time. I had gone to the, I mentioned I did go to the Friends of the Land Library, and I also, at Christmas time, I went to the Councilman Courage's Christmas dinner at the Senior Center, and I was invited because of my role on this job, with this position. I went to the Westfall Branch Library for their anniversary. I attended the Brook Hollow 40th birthday. It was so nice to see so many of you there and so many staff there, and it was very nice. Councilman Courage again was there. We both gave remarks, and it's a lovely library. I went to the Holocaust news conference that was down at Central. I attended on Sunday, I went to the Encino Branch Library, their friends group, and they're really coming along. They've got some good leaders in, and I feel like they're really on the road to doing some great things there. I've seen a big change there in their attitude, happy, and they're new people, and so that's very encouraging. And I think I mentioned the Westfall Branch. Yes, I did. I think I did. I think that means it all.
You're busy. Thank you,
Yeah,
Marcy.
busy time.
Joanne?
In the past month, I went to the District 2 community block party that they had at one of their sites on Ritterman Road, and it was for the families and a lot of young kids, and it was cold. I thought, but it was very nice. And I went to the Westfall 60th anniversary, and I went to the library work strategic planning session that we had. I also went for the Brook Hollow 40th anniversary, which was very, very nice. The Westfall was very nice also, but I mean, it was, a lot of children running around and stuff like that. That's so nice. And so last night I went to the Carver Branch Library Bond Project open house, which it was very informative, and a lot of the community was there, and they had positive remarks, and so it was just meaningful event. It wasn't a waste, but it was a very meaningful event. And some of the upcoming things that I know about, of course, for Black History Month next month, they're going to the San Antonio Black International Film Festival. Is going to have an event at the Carver with a pop-up type of screening type thing. And then on February the 25th, our Sydney, her father has granted, or he's going to be one of the readers at one of the book reading things that they have on the 25th of February. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. Judy?
I was able to attend the 60th Westfall Library celebration or anniversary. Westfall is my first library that I got my first library card at, so it's super special for me. Anything with your name at that age, I guess I was like maybe first grade. You know, it was like the paper library card at that time. Upgraded to the plastic blue one eventually, but so that was very nice to see that, and I still go there with my children. And also, I guess it's the longest librarian, Miss Marino. Is she? What was Dale? Is she the longest?
Tenured children's
yes,
librarian.
I didn't know that in our system, so that was really nice to recognize her. And I'm also happy every year that we get to, I see a lot of media coverage over the Holocaust Learn and Remember, so that's also a very special event that I'm very proud that we continue to have.
Thank you. I'm going to go to our virtual attendees. Fernanda? You may be on mute, Fernanda. Is she still muted, or?
And I can't unmute her.
Okay. Okay, while you're working on that, Fernanda, it sounds like I'm going to ask Josie to provide an update.
Okay, thank you. I also attended the Holocaust Learn and Remember news conference, and I too am very, very proud of the affiliation that the City of San Antonio and SAPL has with the Holocaust Museum. I attended the library board work session on the strategic plan. Well, it was very, very well organized. I love the format that we used, and we got a lot of work done there. Had a lot of fun at the Brook Hollow Branch Library 40th anniversary. Ran into David McCary there and met his wife, and they took pictures of us, and we had a grand time. And I also attended the facilities committee meeting. I haven't served on that committee in several years, so it was great to be back on there, and got all caught up on all the current projects that we're working on. Thank you.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Josie. Fernanda, is your audio working? We heard you before when you were voting, so.
Should they need to log out and log back in maybe?
She says she's going to reboot.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you, Fernanda. Thank you all for your continued commitment and taking that service on the board seriously and just partaking in so many activities. I think that's fantastic. Next, we'll hear from the library director.
Good. Thank you, Madam Chair. Some of you mentioned Learn and Remember, which is on our 12th year, offering this citywide series of programs and lectures and exhibits and so on that focuses on the Holocaust so that we can teach and enlighten the community about the importance of tolerance and pushing back against hate. We're very proud of this program. The closing program was very touching. It was this past Sunday at the Jewish Community Center. We had about 200 people who showed up. It tells the story of a Mexican-American GI who was sent to a concentration camp in Berga and kept a journal and talks about, in his journal, about the many soldiers that died and how the sacrifices they made the experiences, the torture. So it was an interesting program because but the Jewish Community Center, they partnered with this theater group and dramatized Anthony Acevedo is the name of the GI, the American soldier, and it had been kept a secret for the longest time. And not many years ago, it was finally, the story was told. It was kept a secret at the direction of the U.S. government, so that's an interesting aspect of the story as well. It was very moving. It was a wonderful presentation, and I just want to emphasize how proud I am of this particular series, and it continues, and I hope it will continue for a long, long time. So I want to share that with you. I did have an opportunity to talk to Councilman Courage yesterday, and he was very excited with the anniversary of the Brook Hollow Branch Library, so I just wanted to share that with you as well. I understand the Westfall, as you reported, was also extremely successful. I was not able to attend either of those two events, but staff did a wonderful job of making sure that we had a celebration that paid a tribute to those two branches. A couple of you had reached out to us asking for if we had more information regarding the city clerk's initiative, strategic planning initiative. We don't have additional information. I think it's good to always have strategic planning. I believe the mayor will be there. I think it's upcoming. It hasn't happened yet, do you know?
No, it's next week.
Okay, next week. So I don't have any information to share, but I certainly would support it. A reminder, if you haven't completed your financial disclosure report, please do so. And at this time, I'm going to invite Kathy Donlan, Assistant Library Director, to give us an update on the iPad lending program. Kathy.
Thank you. Are you able to hear me with my mask on? Okay. So during really one of the hardest parts of the pandemic, the library partnered with a couple of organizations to offer a device lending program to older adults. What this involved was having the participants in this program, they would check out an iPad and get additional supports, and they could use that iPad for anything they needed to in their daily life. And it also, the program provided data, so you wouldn't even have to connect to Wi-Fi. You could use it from anywhere. So this program has gone on since 2021, and we were very fortunate to get the original funding, excuse me, the original funding for the program from the San Antonio Public Library Foundation. So during this very difficult time where we were trying to support older adults as a vulnerable community, and combat social isolation during the pandemic and support them with digital inclusion, the foundation really stepped up and they helped us with the original funding. Then from there, there were several federal funding sources available for these sort of emergency programs. So we were able to get two different kind of flavors of ARPA funding. So it's been a very successful program, and it resulted in 650 individuals accessing this program. Now that the pandemic is over, I guess, we are re-examining the program for sustainability because it does require a lot of resources for the data. The data alone is about 150,000 each year. So it's significant. So in looking at this, really I think what the staff is suggesting is that it was a success as a pandemic response. However, we don't see it as a program to continue sustainably, given the relatively small number of people we can serve with it. And now that we're in a slightly different situation where we can support older adults in digital inclusion in other ways. So that was the update we wanted to share tonight. And I'd be happy to try to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions, Beth?
You said about 650 people participated. Was that max that we could have handled? Did that top out the available?
No, it didn't really, because we had 330 devices, and the period of time was about 6-month checkout. So theoretically, we could have served more. Now, some folks did, keep the device and go into another period of checkout, right, which is fine. But we didn't really max out from like a resource perspective at the very top of how many people we could serve. We met the demand, basically.
Okay, with that group, with that pilot group, were they going to be able to keep those iPads or, I don't know, tablets, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so the idea is no, that it's a device for checkout and then you return it.
Good question. Any other questions? Fernanda, do you have your hand raised?
Yes, so I have a question. And thank you so much for having those resources, especially for our older adults, because it is needed. Are we proactively, what is it that we're proactively doing to market this program so all of our older adults in all the communities know that the library has this available for them and they can check this out? We want to make sure, like you said, we have enough resources, but that everyone is using them.
I'm sorry, I missed the question.
She was asking what is being done to market the availability of devices in branches.
So originally, the program was a partnership through the senior centers. So that was really the connection with the older adults. And then beyond that, we partnered with some of the local agencies that provide digital inclusion specifically for older adults out in the community. And then, of course, we did other types of marketing of the program, in general. So those were kind of the avenues. So originally, it really was, a lot of it was the partnership with the senior centers.
And the portion so the senior center partnership and the use of the ARPA funds will not be used going forward. That's a staff recommendation, but the ability to check out devices in most branches still exists, is that right?
This was our primary device lending program, and now that we've exhausted all those funding sources, the idea is the program wouldn't continue.
Okay.
Now, I'm sorry, I guess I should add one more thing, just Reed. Of course, at library locations, anyone can check out a laptop and use it within the library. But in terms of a device lending program where you take the device home, this was our one.
This was the only one,
program.
Yeah,
that was important during COVID.
Yeah, I was thinking of Petrenko where you can borrow the laptop, but yes, to your point, it works just in that area.
Yeah, so the idea with the laptops for checkout is you use them within the library.
Okay, thank you. Marcy?
What are you going to do with the devices?
So the devices are actually, at about year 3 of their life. So we have about 1 more year until they get to end of life. It's heavy use and, public circulation. So we haven't determined exactly what they might be used for in terms of surplus, but there are a couple of programs that we're expanding that do need some iPads. So for example, one of them, again, this isn't really a done decision, but one of the programs we're considering is repurposing them for the Enhanced Library Card program, because now there's a way for the staff to use an iPad to issue the cards. So that's one thought of how we would reuse them.
Any other questions? Yep, Fernanda, is your hand still raised or?
I have another question.
I just want to make sure.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Have we discussed, and I apologize if I didn't hear correctly, have we discussed how much budget is needed for this pilot program to continue? First question is, second question, what avenues have we researched to be able to get that funding for this program to continue?
Right, so the cost to sustain the program is really two things, one of which I haven't mentioned yet. So one is the data. So that's about $150,000 each year. And then the other piece really is the staffing. So during COVID, we really kind of pivoted some folks' staff time to this program. But it's really at a point where we would need to have somebody have this as their day job, right? And so that really is a pain point for us because it's very staff time intensive because we have to get the devices back, basically kind of reboot them. I'm not using the right term. Adam Zabi sitting here looking at me, but we have to make sure that any personal data that the person had put on it is not on there when we check it out to the next person, and just make sure that it's ready to go and secure and all of those things. And so it really is the data and then also the staffing. Because we had some folks, like I said, pivot their role for the program, but now that we're back to 7-day-a-week operation and all our regular programs, it's been very difficult to sustain it in that way. And then I guess one other thing I should mention is because these iPads were funded through special funds, so gift funds, and then also grant funds. They're not currently on the city's replacement schedule because those types of devices funded in those ways aren't, because it's not meant to be like a sustainable thing for years and years. So that would be another hurdle, because probably in about another year or so, we would have to get funding to fund all the devices again, because they'd be end of life. So those are the major areas. And so again, what we've done is kind of availed ourselves of all the resources that were available during COVID to fund it, but moving forward, it would really have to be a budget request in the general fund. And the hardest part is the staff positions, because it would really require additional staff positions.
How many positions would it be?
We talked about that a little bit in the proposals that y'all reviewed in the last budget cycle, and I want to say we said 2.
2 full-time.
I shouldn't throw numbers out if I'm not 100% sure, but that's about where we were, I think, with that one. So it's not that it wasn't successful. It really is now, we're in a different environment, and it's that sustainability aspect of it.
Would you be able to share usage data with us maybe next time we meet, or add it to next month's director's report, so we can just, as the program, it sounds like, is concluding, it would be good to know what the usage was on that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Definitely do that.
Any other questions for Kathy or Ramiro? Okay, thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
Ramiro, you have one? Do you have another item?
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. No, that concludes the director's report. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I had one question for you, if you don't mind, and you may not know the answer to this. But I noticed in the report update for the Carver Branch Library, Carver Branch Library has a lot of information in this director's packet, which is really fantastic to see. There is a little blurb in here about a patron who was housing insecure and was able to, was gifted a tiny home in a new community with the help of library staff. And I'm just wondering if that's a program that's going on at Carver, or were they just utilizing getting some coaching and help, or?
Perhaps, Jake, can you speak to that, or Elma?
If you have the answer, you can bring it.
Sorry. So this is Jake Otlin, who is the branch coordinator, and Carver is one of the, it's public services administrator. Carver is one of his branches, was one of his branches. Now Haley Holmes is the new PSA, but you probably have a little history.
I happen to know through conversations with the branch manager and the LEARN officer, Sean Mendoza, who worked directly with this individual, that she was able to help him take advantage of, I believe it was a county project, with building out some of these tiny homes and providing those people that were housing insecure, and then she was able to, with her support, connect this person with the appropriate resources to then get him into the tiny house and off the street. So
That's great.
kudos to her.
Yeah, thank you for that. So I'll invite trustees to take a look at the Carver update and just read that blurb. It's, I mean, to me, very extremely impactful to be able to house an unhoused person. And just like a generic comment, I'm sure this will come up in PR committee in the next cycle of meetings. But this is the type of thing that I think we should be sharing more widely, because it's really important, it's really important for the citizens of San Antonio, one, to know about this COSA project, but also that they can help, that the library is really helping enable and enabling the opportunity. So I think that's great.
Absolutely. If I may, it also speaks to our Learn centers, Learn at SAPL centers, how important those spaces that we have created, and we have 7, 8, and we envision a bigger one for the central library, and more with more services. But it speaks to the Learn at SAPL centers, what they do to impact the community, especially with marginalized communities and others. New immigrants, for example, and the enhanced library card. And so thank you for that opportunity to do a shout out for the Learn centers.
And they also had a little area where they have coats that anyone can pick up if they need them.
That's great. Yeah, I saw the Westfall warmth wall, or I'm probably saying it wrong, warming wall or something. Wall of warmth, thank you. And I think there were patrons that may have been coming in and knitting in the branch and then leaving their items, which was, it speaks volumes to both community, both the people that are creating and the ones that are, experiencing that warmth. So I think these are fantastic things. I'd love to see them more, more readily, in other sources, so I don't have to wait till the director's report, because I think I would love to see it. I know other trustees would as well, but it also helps us to be able to further the mission of the library, which is linked to having more advocates out there for us. So whatever we can do to provide that would be great.
Absolutely.
Okay, so thank you for that, Ramiro. Next, we have the budget report. Gabriella's here.
Good afternoon. I'm glad to be here today. I'm going to be giving you an update on the library's operating budget. So if you're here in person, it's on your green sheets if you'd like to turn there. And if you're viewing it online, it starts on page 98 of your packet. As of the end of December, we're through the first quarter of the fiscal year, so 25% of time has elapsed. We were at 27% spent, including the encumbrances, and 25% without them. So overall, we're in line with our spending as of the end of the first quarter. The contractual services category is slightly ahead of spending, and that's going to be mainly due to the encumbrances in the building maintenance account and the contractual services account. We also pay for some annual computer subscriptions and maintenance. We pay the annual amount up front, so that will cause that account to be ahead of plan. In the capital outlay category, you'll notice that we're under in spending, and this is going to be due to the fact that it takes a little longer to plan and to order the furniture, fixtures, and equipment and get those items sent out to the library locations. Lastly, I just wanted to point out that in the personnel services category, one thing that we did receive in the budget for fiscal year 24 was an increase for the personal leave buyback account. So normally, we would be showing around 70% over budget in that account. Currently, we're at 4% over budget, and that's because of the increase we received in the budget process. We received $169,000 for that benefit. So that's my update, but if y'all have any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Is the, could you tell us about the, is it the rental equipment?
Yes, because I was going to ask that as
Okay.
well.
Rental equipment, this is where we are having to supplement some of our HVAC systems at library locations where, where they're not performing at 100%. So we bring in some HVAC units in order to help cool or heat the library locations.
Okay. And those being so far out of the budget, do we have a plan in place? Assistant city manager just walked out, so I can't really put him on the spot. But how do we reconcile that as we approach the end of the fiscal year?
Basically, we cover it with savings and other areas that we're seeing throughout the year.
Okay.
So we just sort of monitor everything. I do a quarterly estimate, so I make sure and include that in my estimate to make sure that once we get to the end of the fiscal year, we are still able to cover those expenses.
Okay. Is there any tie between the use of library locations as warming and cooling centers and the allocation that the city provides from a budgeting perspective? Looking at Kathy, because I guess that's more of a budget, like capital B budget question.
So absolutely. So we have a total of, I believe it's 8 upcoming HVAC projects for the system through deferred maintenance program, CI capital improvements program, and even bond for Carver. And so that's the connection, right? So in the budget cycle, when we look at the needs of the locations in terms of the building systems, a lot of the reason that every single project we've requested has been funded for this time period is because of that warming and cooling center. So that's really the big way.
Yeah.
And then in the operating budget, when we do have to do spot coolers or spot heaters, as Gabby mentioned, and she was very nonchalant about it, but she really is the best department fiscal administrator in the city. So she makes sure that we're covered in our projection to cover that overage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Gabby. I don't think there's any other questions. Okay. Next, we will hear a report from the executive committee. And the committee did meet on January 16th to set the agenda for this meeting. Next agenda item is the advocacy committee, which did not meet, and agenda item number 9 is the budget committee, which also did not meet this reporting period. I guess I could have let Judy, I should have let you and Joanne tell me that, but I'm just whizzing through the agenda. Is there anything else, Judy, that you'd like to add? I'm sorry, I'm just going faster than I should be. Okay, and Joanne for the budget committee? Okay, thank you both. The next is the report from the facilities committee, and Andrea Sanchez-Muniz is not here, but I understand the committee did meet on January 10th.
Good afternoon, trustee members, thank you. We actually met on January 14th this month, so what we had no action items, but we did have some project updates, and we'll go through a few of those. Some of the current projects we have going on. So we have the first one is the Collins Garden Branch Library. So we all have been praying for rain for a long time, and it's came to us these last couple of weeks. So we have been experiencing some delays on this project, but we met with the contractor yesterday, and they are still planning on getting out there next week and finishing it on time. So as you all know, we did have a couple weeks of float added onto their schedule, so we're still looking pretty good for this project to be complete by the end of this month, or the end of mid-February. Yeah, so. And that'll lead us into the Bazan Branch Library, which is scheduled to close February 19th. The roofing contractor did assure us yesterday that they will be able to still meet that date to start, so we are still planning on that, and that is another project that we are anticipating up to a 6-week closure, but the contractor insists it'll only take 3 weeks, so if they have 3 weeks of good weather, they should be out of there fairly quickly, but we will be monitoring the weather very closely over the course of the next few weeks, so see how this goes, and we'll keep you all posted.
Is the city requiring like these metal roofs now for all roof replacements? Is that like a standard?
No, we're just replacing like for like. Typically,
Okay.
if there was a metal roof, we'd go back
Replace
to
it.
metal, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And then the next project is the Central Library 2022 bond project. We are still going through the programming phase on that, and we're working on trying to close up some funding gaps with Public Works and City Administration on this project. Carver Branch Library, that is another project we heard about that a little bit earlier today because we had our community open house yesterday. Very good input from the community, and we're going to have, the architects are going to have a fun time trying to put all that into a nice design. So we'll be moving forward with building programming and designing in that project really soon. So. And then the Las Palmas project, that also is moving forward. We're getting close to having the funding solved on that problem, and we'll be getting back, I believe next month we'll be coming back to you folks with possibly some design changes and some things we had to make some adjustments for. So.
Can you tell us more about the solution for Las Palmas? Is it scaling back the scope of the renovations, or is that?
We have worked very, very diligently with the contractors and Public Works and the architects to not pull actual scope out of the project. We are having to reevaluate how we do some of the finishes in the project, which that's what we're going to really have to come back and show you guys, because we kind of showed you pictures of some stuff that was really fancy, and we may have to go back to a little bit more, slightly more basic versus high-end type stuff. But just reevaluating some of those expenses. So.
Mark, can you share about the community meeting?
Yes, we are also having a community meeting on February 12th. February 12th, we're going to hold that community meeting at Collins Garden Branch Library, and that's going to be to update the community on the changes that we've been working over the last couple of months on that project.
For the Las Palmas, okay.
That one is going to be a little tricky because we would certainly like to get on.
Yeah. So one of the primary reasons we're having the community meeting is to update, not so much about the scope, because we were able to retain all the scope, but to update the community on the schedule, because we do think the schedule is shifting out, meaning it's going to take longer than we anticipated. And a lot of that was this kind of value engineering to get it as close to within budget as we could. And then the city is bringing more resources to the project as well to close that gap. So all that work to figure that out, of course, took some time. And now we need to update the community primarily on the schedule.
What do you think your schedule is going to be now? Do you have an idea? Or?
No. We need to get that from our Public Works partners, and I know they're working on that now. So Mark mentioned, it's a little complicated. Normally what we would do is go to Facilities Committee with all that detailed information, then the board, but in an effort to have the community meeting in February at a time when the council person can also participate, it's going to end up actually being first. So we can definitely update y'all maybe through an email or something as soon as we know what that schedule really looks like and what we'll be sharing with the community. Because it'll actually be the day before Facilities Committee and then 2 weeks before the board meeting.
So it's not scheduled for the 29th, guess it shows.
No, that's incorrect.
Okay.
That's what we were trying to do. So it would be after those those 2 milestones, but it ended up having to be February 12th. So I apologize for the error on the slide.
Do we have a time?
Probably 6 o'clock. And it's an important meeting, if I may interject here, because we have been waiting for a while. We have been working diligently with our partner, Public Works, and I also want to recognize Assistant City Manager David McCary. He also helped speed up the problem to deal with the fact is that construction costs are rising, and it impacted this project and many other projects throughout the city. And so, as reported by staff, there's some what's called value engineering. I'm a little concerned about it, not a lot, but some elements will have to be a little more, less fancy, as Mark indicated. For example, the enclosure of the plaza in the ceiling, the architects initially had proposed wood nights, which I found very attractive. That might be drywall, painted drywall in a nice way. But so I'm looking forward to having that conversation with the community. Let's see what kind of reaction we get. And there's some other, maybe, other modifications, not maybe, that we have yet to, we asked the architects, come back and give us some new renderings, see what it's going to look like with some of those modifications that are being proposed to lower down the cost. So we haven't seen that yet, so I can't tell you. They're good architects, so I'm sure it'll be good, but
I think that would be important for that to come back to facilities and then also for the larger board to be briefed on it as well.
And in fact, we wanted to go to the community first so that we could bring that feedback to the board.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Any other questions on facilities?
I had a question, given our extreme winter weather last week, was there any facilities that were too cold to open?
We had a couple that had some heating problems in the afternoon that we did have to close early. Landa and Johnston, I think, were a couple of them that had to close a few hours early because it was a little uncomfortable for staff, yeah. We had some parts issues, but we've worked through the facilities, our HVAC vendor on that to square those away. So.
Okay, so those are taken care of, because I'm assuming we're going to get some more, so.
And we're preparing for that,
yeah.
Okay. And the construction report is in your packet if there's any other projects that you have questions on.
Thank you. Next, a report from the naming committee. Judy?
That's what I was looking. I don't think I'm the chair any longer of the naming committee. I think Josie is. Is that right, Josie? Because on the pink sheet it says Josie. And
I haven't received any information from that officially.
We'll look at it and get it resolved. Yeah, make sure that
okay.
the two names are reconciled. But so naming committee definitely didn't meet. No. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Next is a report from the Ad Hoc Board Policy Committee, and the chair, Paul Stahl, is not here, but informed me that that committee did not meet this reporting period. And item number 13 is a report from the Ad Hoc ILA Committee. I am the chair of that committee, and that committee met on January 16th, and we'll give a report in executive session today. And then next we have a report. The next agenda item is a report from the Friends of the San Antonio Public Library, and I understand that John Costello had a location mix-up.
John Costello, the president of the Friends of the San Antonio Public Library, was unable to attend today. He accidentally went to the Central Library for the meeting. He sent his apologies, but he did share that his sole agenda item to report is a reminder about the Friends of the Library's annual board meeting, which is scheduled to take place this Saturday at the Central Library at 2 o'clock. So it is the 27th of January. So it'll be Central Library, 2 o'clock, and it is their annual meeting. They will have elections, and also as a reminder to, if you have not already renewed your annual dues, to do so. Thank you.
Right now? No. Okay. Thank you, Jessica. And next we have a report from the San Antonio Public Library Foundation from Amy.
All right, well, we are HEB all the time for the next few weeks. I reported at the last meeting that HEB had given a gift of $1,000 cash and a $1,000 gift card to every branch in the system. We were going to visit 5 branches and just do a big hoopla. They liked it so much that thanks to Kathy for helping with this, because it's been a lot of moving parts, visiting every single branch with cupcakes and balloons and HE Buddy and all of that. So today, last week and the week before, we did 5 branches. Today we did 8 branches. Tomorrow, we're doing 8 branches, and the next week, I think there's 7 left on Wednesday. Most of you know the foundation only has 2 full-time employees. I am one. The other one is on maternity leave right now, so it's been a little crazy. I did discover that I cannot be in 2 places at once, so we do have board members who are attending those with library folks and the representatives from HEBs. So the biggest thing that HEB wants to do with this, and it really is the community-wide reinvigoration of this relationship between the libraries and the foundation and HEB, is a team from the closest store, the closest HEB store to the library. Their store director is coming in along with several members of their store leadership to bring all of the goodies and connecting with the branch managers. And so what they are offering is local support in addition to this corporate support. So the foundation is working with the corporate people for larger gifts, and I was really hoping I would have an answer today, and I was really disappointed that I didn't have an answer, but we have asked them for a pretty large investment to help with Las Palmas and a couple other places. But definitely by the next meeting, I will have an answer for you, and hopefully some really good news. But at the local level, they can provide, cupcakes and water and things for the different branches, and in addition to that $2,000 that they can spend on anything. So we're really excited about that. It is taking up a lot of time, but this is an investment in the future because we're talking about significant investments year over year now that we finally have convinced them that the book festival doesn't support all of the library branches. So they had, when the foundation spun off the book festival in 2019, it was much like a divorce in that they got some of the donors and we got some of the donors. And with the larger corporations like Valero and HEB, they really didn't understand that we were 2 separate organizations. And Valero caught on after about 18 months, and it's taken 3.5 years for HEB. But now we are on the right road to some significant investment in the future for all of the library branches. Does anybody have any questions?
Oh, thank you. That's great news. Let us know how we can support you at those events too, just to show our appreciation to the HEB staff.
Okay,
That's
yeah, and
exciting.
we can email out the schedule for the rest of the visits if anybody. This all came up very suddenly.
Yeah.
We only started talking about this mid-December, so this all came together very quickly. But Kathy has a handy-dandy chart with all the times on it that we can email out to you guys in case anybody has the opportunity to stop in, because it's a lot of fun too. The staff gets really excited. We had a little misstep at the beginning. The first 4, we didn't realize that HEB wanted it to be a surprise. They never said that. We met with them and they said, oh, we'll make a big deal out of this. So we told you guys told all the people, everybody. And then we got there and they were like, wait, this isn't a surprise. So now with the ones we've done today and tomorrow and next week, only the branch manager knows. So the whole rest of the staff is excited, and I have to say that Barbara over at Parman, she pretended like she didn't know, even though I had already told the HEB people that she knew, so everyone was very surprised.
That's awesome.
Happy.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Amy. Thank you for carrying the torch alone. That's a lot of work. Next, I'd like to recognize our city manager, Eric Walsh, who is here in attendance. And since Mr. Walsh is here, I'm going to exercise a privilege to enter into executive session outside of the planned agenda. So we'll pause and pick up on agenda item 16 just after a quick executive session. So I'm going to read a statement and ask everyone who's not a member of the trustees to exit the room. The Board of Trustees of the San Antonio Public Library, I'm sorry, this is the wrong sheet. She did give it to me, I think I got it.
You got it?
Yeah. Okay. The Board of Trustees of the San Antonio Public Library will begin its executive session pursuant to Government Code Section 551.071 consultation with attorney on the 24th day of January 2024 at 5:51 PM. I'll call us back to order. The Board of Trustees of the San Antonio Public Library has completed its executive session on the 24th day of January 2024 at 7:04 p.m. The Board of Trustees of the San Antonio Public Library will now resume its open session. No action was taken. All right, thank you all for your patience and for that change in the order of the agenda. Next, we have a staff report from the Encino Branch Library. And Alma, are you going to do an introduction?
I am doing the
Okay.
introduction.
Excellent,
Hello.
thank you.
I am Elma, I'm the Public Services Administrator, and not just for Pruitt, but also this lovely branch, the Encino branch. And it is my pleasure to introduce to you the branch manager for Encino, Ms. Michelle Recondo. Michelle is a 26-year veteran of San Antonio Public Library. She has worked at Cody, Brook Hollow, Thousand Oaks, Westfall, Igo, Cortez, and now she's been branch manager of this location for 5.5 years. She is also, I want to add, an alumnus of the city's Women's Leadership Mentoring Program, where she did a really, really great job of taking her forward and presenting some wonderful things from the libraries and the things. So she represented us well with that program. When she's not dedicated to this lovely branch, Michelle is an amateur cicerone. For those who don't know the term, because I had to look it up, a guide who gives information about antiquities and places of interest to sightseers. It's not pasta, like what my head thought, but I wish I had heard when I heard the word cicerone. She is a museophile, a trivia buff, and a jigsaw puzzle enthusiast. Here to provide you the Encino Branch report, the professional cicerone for this location, Michelle Recondo.
All right, awesome. I don't know what kind of music to expect when a cicerone approaches the podium.
Thank you, Alma, for that wonderful introduction. If you want to, and we're going to cue Jessica. And to the second. Thank you. I, along with my hardworking and wonderful team, welcome you to our bustling branch. Next slide. Encino Library has been a mainstay in the Encino area for the last 8 years, since our opening in May 2015. The statistics collected here indicate that Encino is an integral part of the community. I would also like to thank Special Projects Manager Randall Polasek for his assistance in compiling the statistical information in the presentation. Once Encino was open completely in fiscal year 22, we were happy to welcome back our patrons. During the summer months in fiscal year 23, Encino hosted patrons from Brook Hollow while that location was closed for HVAC upgrades. And you can see there on the slide that we took in at least 33% more during the summer of 23 than we did in 2022. And we did have a lot of fun with our new and visiting patrons. Next slide. My favorite. Encino features the only drive-through library in San Antonio. Patrons can pick up holds and drop off return items, and it also serves as Encino's contact-free pickup location. The drive-through has grown in popularity with a 48% increase in usage from fiscal year 22 to fiscal year 23. In fiscal year 22, 5,534 patrons used the drive-through at Encino, while in fiscal year 23, 10,656 patrons used the drive-through.
Oh, that's hot. Amazing.
The Encino Playground opened to the Encino community and beyond on September 28, 2022, and it became a very popular destination for patrons from around the city. Families also bring visiting relatives to our location during the holidays and the summertime, and the playground is always their first stop. Children's programming remains one of the most well-attended types of programming at Encino, led by children's librarian Caitlin Leonard. In addition to weekly baby time and storytime programs, we offer a Sunday story time for those that can't visit us during the week, as well as tween time, read to a dog, let's create, and let's build programs for school-age children. Seasonal programs such as Summer with SAPL, Fall Fest, and Holly Jolly Fest are also very popular with the community. In fiscal year '23, Encino hosted 153 early childhood programs with an attendance of 4,821 and 92 school-age programs with an attendance of 2,803. Team Time is a popular attraction for Encino teens, and we currently have the largest teen volunteer corps in SAPL of 20 active teen volunteers. Several of our teen volunteers lead Team Time each week, as well as facilitate the Teen Art Club and work with the librarians on different projects. Encino hosted a total of 112 teen programs in fiscal year '23, with an attendance of 935. Assistant Manager Ann Laird has a knack for crafting, and her always full classes allow her to showcase her creative talent. She also performs monthly outreach to Franklin Park Assisted Living at TPC Parkway. In fiscal year '23, Encino hosted a total of 112 adult programs with an attendance of 886, 60 older adult programs with an attendance of 379, and 12 general interest / all age programs with an attendance of 220. I am very proud of the work of Team Encino, and we are looking forward to doing more for our community in fiscal year '24. I thank you for your time.
Okay, I have to ask a question. You probably get asked this all the time. Was the branch, what, was the drive-through built for the library, or did it exist in the building?
The drive-through existed in a restaurant called the Adobe Cafe, which the library was built from that. So they just decided to keep that, and it's been one of the most popular features of the branch, before the playground, of course.
Yeah, before the playground.
Right.
I was here when the playground opened, and that was the best bubble display I've ever experienced in my life. So that was awesome. Thank you so much.
I have a question. What do you attribute the success of the Teen Volunteer Corps to? That's really outstanding.
We have allowed the teams to volunteer to do their own programs. That does allow them leadership ability, and also word of mouth from the volunteers that were currently working with us to their friends. Come on over here, we can do teen time, and we can actually create the programs for the teens. And that's what really led them to running their own programs, and that's what really brought a lot of them on. We have some that are really in love with books, so they love to shelve books, and so we have a waiting list actually of teen volunteers. So their dedicated space really helps. That's their own little hiding hole.
Well, I want to thank you for all that you do for the library, including recruiting your sister to be the president of the Friends group. And they look so much alike, except you have new hairdo, so I can see a difference, you know. Because I think there are, what, 3 or 4 of you sisters, aren't there? Yeah. But anyway, that's how dedicated the family is to our libraries, and she does a great job with and I was really impressed with this last meeting on Sunday. It seems like they've really got their feet on the ground, and they got new members, and so I appreciate all that you're doing here. And your programming here is great, and I've been here for some of watching the kids and stuff, and they love the playground. And how is didn't you have a garden?
We still do. It's in sort of a remission right now because of weather, of course. They have 6 trees out there, and they were newly planted, so it's going to take a little while before they come to fruition. So, but we do have different plants that go in there. Some are annual, so they will grow, even though they might not be out there right now. So we're in flux with the garden.
There was a garden expansion plan too, I think, right, as part of the playground development? Wasn't there going to be like an expansion of the garden? Or
It happened. It's
oh, it
the
happened.
garden
Okay.
you're talking about.
Okay. Yeah, it's a beautiful space, and great usage of space too. Because I remember when I came out here before anything. I think, Judy, you might have been with me, before at the groundbreaking. We're like, where, is there room behind it? Never been behind Encino. And then we went back there and we're like, is there room for this? And then they built an amazing playground and it's awesome. There's plenty of room. So it's really great. Great energy coming in here. And obviously I was attracted to books that you have out on display. So doing a great job. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, next item we have is introduction of the San Antonio Public Library's Corazon collection. Adam?
Hey, good evening. See if that mic is for me. How are y'all? It's my pleasure again to bring something kind of fun to y'all. We are announcing in February a new collection development initiative that we're calling the Corazon Collection. And what this is about 115 titles initially that our collection development team, led by Troy Boyles, selected based on perennial popularity in San Antonio. So these are books that are year over year evergreen in popularity. We have different criteria for selecting the books, but let me break down what will be included in this 115 titles. We have adult fiction, adult nonfiction. There's also a selection of young adult and children's. So it covers the gamut, but it's all books at this point. 30% of the books are what we call own voice, meaning that the author is reflecting authenticity from his or her personal experience in life and provide diverse perspectives for people. So these books will be recognizable to some of you. I mean, there's Stephen King for sure. There's Colleen Hoover. You've got some, Louis Sacre, that I can't remember how to say his name exactly. And we're going to be buying these books both in English and Spanish when available. The large print copies will live at the Central Library location. But we're going to buy 115 copies of these books for every single branch. We've already bought them. Every branch will receive all 115 books, and these books will be unique in that they do not float to other libraries, so they will not vanish from the shelves of different branches around the city, creating better equity in terms of access to our collections citywide. The plan will be for an annual review process of this list, so we're starting out with 115 titles this year, sometime next year, probably around this time. We'll be adding titles, we'll be removing titles that maybe have sort of fallen out of our baseline criteria for the collection. And we'd also like to explore multimedia, movies, music, and things that we have. I should say too, we're also buying them in all electronic formats, so everywhere there was an audiobook, e-audio, or e-book available, we did purchase copies for that for people who prefer those means of reading.
How do you, sorry, can I ask a question now or should we wait till the end?
You can
Okay.
fire away.
How do you have an electronic copy designated to a branch?
The electronic copy won't be designated
Oh,
to
okay.
branch this week, but the physical copies will be available at every branch.
Okay.
And I'll let Scott explain when he comes up about some of the marketing plans that his team have developed for that in-person rollout.
Okay.
Now, the digital copies live in Overdrive or Libby app, if you're familiar, I'm sure. And we've created a carousel slideshow, so you can actually browse through that Corazon collection directly from Libby. It'll be something that we're waiting to roll it out, so you can't actually jump into your app right now and see it until we're ready. There's also going to be a faceted search system, so if you're looking through our catalog, you'll see that there's a topic called Corazon Collections, so that if you want to see what all 115 titles, where they happen to be, you can do that quickly. We're also probably going to do I shouldn't use technical terms, a search where you can just search that collection. As the collection grows, you can go to a search box and it's really only looking through those titles.
Could you say a little more about what the criteria was used to select the titles?
Yeah, so we have to, I should step back too and say that this is an idea that Troy brought to me in January when I first started. I just hit my 1 year mark a week ago.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, I didn't mean to plug myself. Anyway, so he had noticed that Kent District Library, which is in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and is a pretty innovative library system, they began what they call the core collection. And for us, that had a lot of different meanings, and I don't want to step on Scott's feet, but his team had the brilliant idea, I think, to make it San Antonioize it by calling it Corazon. So we've been in communication with Kent District Library, developing criteria. I mean, some of the matches theirs, some of this new things for us. We had to obtain copies of every title already in the system. But more than half of those needed to be checked out at the time that we ran these reports, and they needed to be more than 1 year old. So we're not looking at flash in the pan autobiographies or something. It's true books that the San Antonio community has selected year over year as their favorite things to go back to and read. So that's the short version of it.
Great.
And yeah, so the 115 books will start reaching library branches the next couple of weeks. Our cataloging team and our processing team have done, once again, I mean, this is 3,300 books plus. So you're looking at, again, nearly 2 tons of physical material getting moved off of trucks, tagged, stickered, and delivered to the library system. That work is culminating now. We're going to start sending out these boxes, bins of books to each branch here in the first week of February. And then, Scott, if you want to jump in, then Scott's team will take over with pushing that to the community.
Good evening, trustees, Mr. Library Director. I love when nature provides me a dramatic backdrop to what I'm going to talk about. So just a note, and I'll be brief because I know that it's getting late, but I wanted to talk a little bit about how we intend to market and promote this initiative. It's one that we as a marketing communications team are very excited about, especially given that it has a real opportunity to increase circulation system-wide, and that's obviously something that we're all interested in, is getting more books in people's hands. In envisioning and planning to promote this new collection, our goal is to increase circulation, but also to highlight the public's role in the selection of these titles. And so for us, that began with a compelling name. We thought something that would be catchy and memorable, but also something that really spoke to the San Antonio community and the experience. And so Corazon came to the fore in a brainstorming session that we had as the communications team, which really has a triplicate meaning. The first, as Adam alluded to, is a phonetic allusion to the core collection, which was one of the inspirations that Adam mentioned from the Kent District Library in Michigan. And of course, it's also a not so subtle reference to the Spanish language influence in our city and in our community. And then it also is, to us, it embodies that these titles are at the heart of San Antonio, evidenced by the fact that they're selected in part by their popularity. So these are the titles that our community loves and checks out again and again because they're at least 1 year old, so they're persistently popular with our audiences. And so really, the public had a very real and identifiable role to play in selecting this collection and bringing it to every library location. So from there, we developed beautiful branding with a slightly subliminal message. If you haven't noticed it yet, I urge you to take a look at the logo that's on the screen. If you're familiar with the FedEx logo that has an arrow in it, we embedded a book in this graphic. So the teal elements that stretch out on the left and right from the bottom are the open covers of the book, and then the white stripes that kind of fold over into a heart are the pages of the book. So we wanted to make sure that an actual book was represented within the logo. We had a couple of different ways to do that, some that were more obvious and some that were more subliminal, and this was the design direction that really resonated with the whole team, including our administrative team. This will be one of 2 major campaigns that we launch in the month of February, the other being the library's observance of Black History Month, which will run throughout February. Corazon will be a perpetual campaign similar to our promotion of core services like Libby or the Learn Centers, meaning we'll continue to promote this. It's not just going to launch and then we'll have kind of an end date. We'll continue to promote the availability of the collection as long as we have this collection. We're creating a wide range of collateral. It's a broad-reaching campaign. We want it to be highly visible in library locations, so every print book in the Corazon collection will have a spine label that features the branding so that it jumps off the shelf at you when you're walking by. And then we also want it to be visible, obviously, in the news media, online, and in both traditional and digital forms of advertising. So a couple of examples of how we're planning to promote include incentives. So I have a custom little button here that represents the Corazon collection branding. So at the launch, every library patron who checks out a book from the Corazon collection while supplies last will receive a limited edition button with the branding. This is the only one I have right now, but I promise that you will each get one at the February board meeting.
If they check out a book, right? Yeah.
Your book that is from the Corazon collection, that's right. We are also producing a reading log so that people can keep track of their how much they've read from the Corazon collection. This will be updated as the collection is updated because, as Adam mentioned, we're going to continually review the items in the collection and add and subtract items as the popularity ebbs and flows. So this is the 2024 edition at launch. When we have a new roster of Corazon collection books, we'll have a new pamphlet. I want to stress that this is very much in draft mode right now. This is not a final paper form, and some of the design elements here might change, but I'll just hand this to Judy and y'all can pass it around to take a look. So that is the complete list of titles. And we are planning to launch on, of course, February 14th, on Valentine's Day. So February is both Love Your Library month, and February 14th is obviously Valentine's Day or Galentine's Day. And that's going to be our launch date for this campaign. I also just want to say that it's been a real pleasure to work with Adam and Troy and the collections development team. It's clear that there's a lot of passion behind this initiative, and I hope that that comes through in the branding and the marketing that we do. But it's really been a lot of fun to work with your team, Adam, so thank you. And I'm happy to entertain any questions or either of us.
Will these be shelved separately like the Express collection?
Potentially. We're going to first roll them out as like a display more standard across the system, but eventually some of the branches, based on size, like you can imagine San Pedro may not have the shelf space to do that, but they could choose to interfile these in the collection. Because you mentioned the sticker on the book already, or did I?
Yes.
Yeah, because of the sticker on the spine of the book, they'll be sort of like, it's going to be kind of a treasure hunt of sorts for people in those libraries. Other places may want to have a selection of them facing out and then the rest of them interfiled. We kind of want to see what that community wants in terms of how they're marketed to. So.
And I'm sorry, did you say it was both fiction and nonfiction?
Yeah, the adult is fiction, nonfiction. Young adult and children's are just fiction at this point.
Do many of these books have the digital component to them?
Almost all of them. I want to say all of them, but I'd have to check that.
You know, one of the things I really love is when I go to the digital library, is they tell me what most popular books are to check out. And I end up reading a lot of those books lots of times. So I think, well, everyone else reading it must be pretty good. And I found some fabulous books that way. And you can even write and say, oh, I really like the book Where the Crawdads Sing. And then they'll come back and give me suggestions. Well, then you'll probably like this one or that one. And they're right. That's like, it's amazing what y'all are doing with the library. And I can't wait to see the selection, because I look for those things. There's a lot of books out there.
Yeah.
And so I really thank you so much for guiding us to find some good books. And I really enjoyed reading a lot of the books I would never have picked out if it wasn't for your guidance. So.
Oh, I can't take the credit. Troy Hoyles is a true pro. He's a master of his craft when it comes to that. So he's deserves the appreciation there.
Yeah, plus was I'm glad I killed my mother. I'm glad my mother's dead.
Yes. The McCurdy book, which I believe is on this list as well.
Yeah.
So,
they said it was one of the most popular ones. I said, well, I better get it.
Yes, once we are ready to launch, we will be promoting it more heavily in the Libby app in the first screen or so that you swipe through. So you'll be able to find that collection pretty quickly.
Other questions or comments?
I was going to say it would be nice to also maybe highlight some local authors and born in San Antonio kind of authors to try to get the community to support them.
We're currently working on ways to highlight folks who are here local, because like Adam mentioned, there are a number of own voice titles on the list, and so we're working with our programming team to identify opportunities like that too.
Yeah, and I'm glad a lot of them are in Spanish, and so how's the purchasing of the English versus the Spanish?
So we're buying an English copy, language copy for every branch. The Spanish language copies will be distributed to branches that have indicated that they need and want more Spanish language literature, but we'll also keep them at Central where they can be delivered, in some cases, same day that they're requested out to the branches or next day. So we'll have enough in this assortment of them. And a lot of these books too have been read so many times that this will give them a fresh copy, and it'll be, you know, they'll be the first ones reading it. There'll be that experience of discovering the book and having, you know, your fingerprints on it as opposed to somebody else's, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, so Born a Crime, which I actually tried to check out and on digital, but you don't have that in digital, and here it says it's in Espanol. Does that mean it won't be in English? I mean, I know
No,
I know you offer it already in English, but you don't know when you'll get the digital. I mean, I really like digital.
It depends on when the publisher pushes it to digital in some ways, and our vendor covers the largest catalog of books that you can imagine. So if it's not on there, I'd be surprised. But I'll get back to you.
I think I read it on my Kindle, Born a Crime. I think it might be out there now.
Yeah, I think you. I want to listen to it.
Oh, listen to it, audio.
Yeah,
okay.
That's another tricky part. The audio is a little bit more rare.
Yeah, there's a lot of books I love that I would like to have in audio that just aren't.
Our e-audio is definitely one of the fastest taking off segments of our collection. Yeah.
I have a couple questions. By the way, the credit to your team, Scott, the year in review, like Instagram post that you guys did, the top 3. I had like a 16-hour flight over the winter holidays, and I was like looking for a new book, and I scrolled through there, and I got exactly that book that Marcy mentioned. I'm Glad My Mother Died, and it was a wild ride. But I think that sentiment resonates with a lot of patrons where they're like wanting to read something, but they don't really know what they want to read, and they're just looking for any recommendations. So I shared how I found that book with a few of my friends, and they were like, "Oh, I'm going to subscribe. Like, I'm going to go follow SAPL so I can get ideas," because they're like, you know, I just sit there. The difference between walking through the library and the Libby app is that you don't scroll for very long on Libby, right? So I think the carousel is a great idea, and just to kind of get things moving again. So that's really great. I would really be interested in some data sooner rather than later, like sooner than a year, to understand how the collection's performing and like what patron feedback is. It's generating a lot of excitement here, and I suspect it's something new that's going to generate a lot of excitement, but I would love to know if this is the way of the future. Okay.
So
yeah.
Whenever you're ready for an update, we can give you that.
And then I was also curious, so you mentioned there will be a display when it launches on the 14th. Before the 14th, are you planning anything, like will there be like an actual Easter egg hunt? People can come in sooner and try to find the books in the collection?
That's a good idea, and I'm thinking about stealing it now.
Oh.
No, we haven't planned any promotional activity for before February 14th. We're planning to launch everything on the 14th. Part of that is to make sure that our processing and shelving delivery teams have enough time to get the books out to the branches. So we're coordinating that all very closely right now to make sure that the product is available when we start marketing it. However, I'm very intrigued by the idea of an Easter egg hunt or something, so I'm going to take that back to the team. And
I think
see what we can do with it.
that could generate excitement. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. It's great.
Thank you.
Are we continuing with these two? Or we already discussed those in executive session?
Yeah. Let me. You could say that you received the report and there's no action to be taken.
So item number 18, receiving an update regarding the interlocal agreement with the Northeast Independent School District for operations of Molly Pruitt. We did receive an update during executive session and no action was taken. And number 19, receive an update regarding the interlocal agreement with Bear County for library services. We also received an update on this, but no action was taken. And so with that, I believe we are done with the agenda, and I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
I move we adjourn.
Okay. All right. We have a motion from Marcy and a second from Beth. Thank you all for your patience. I know this was a long meeting, and for the trustees, thank you for your involvement and feedback. I do appreciate you. And with that, we'll adjourn. Have a good night.